Greetings and welcome to another episode of Q Points Podcast. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is Jay Ray, sometimes known by my government as Johnny Ray Cornegay the Third. And Sir Daniel, we back.
Guess who's Bazak? What's up, Jay Ray?
Yeah, man. Excited to be in space with you. And I'm also excited to have the conversation that we're about to have today, because even though this is a very sad occasion, so one of the things, of course, that happened was that the one and only, and for real, when you talk about pioneering legends, Sparky D passed away.
Yeah.
And we are going to dedicate time to talking about Sparky D's career. And I am excited that we're going to spend some time talking about her, because as we were getting ready to do this show, Sir Daniel and I were talking about the fact that folks from that generation, so people may disagree with the way I calculate these things, but I consider Sparky D to be part of like the second generation of hip hop. This is in hip hop years. A lot of people might say she's part of first generation. A lot of folks, though, from those first two generations, from those early generations, I'll say it like that, don't get talked about because of the way we just kind of, I think, view age, the way we view music culture, how we're always searching for the new thing. And we don't teach the history a lot. So I'm glad that we get a chance to spend some time just kind of talking about Sparky.
And we also don't gauge, we tend to gauge success by how much money, how many records an artist has sold, whether or not they have a hit record that we can recall off the top of our heads. And so, especially specifically in hip hop music, rap music, specifically in the early days, that was a time when a lot of these MCs, first of all, they were still evolving into creating song structure. A lot of them did not have song structures. A lot of the music did not have song structures. That's why early records like Sugar Hill Gang and Super Rapping and all those things, they're super long records.
Long ass songs with lots of rhymes.
No hooks, just rhymes. I mean, rhyming on top of rhyming. That's an evolution that had to happen within the artistry of hip hop music, is that they learned the efficiency of song structure and creating a song that only lasts no more. Well, back then probably lasts no more than 4 minutes, as opposed to 7 or 10. And so, and then a lot of them weren't in the studio. They weren't studio rappers. They were actually live MCs. They were show MCs. They were it was all about showmanship and battling specifically, which is where we see Sparky D enter and gain her reputation, is on the battle scene. And specifically when it came to the Roxanne Wars, which I think because she's attached to the Roxanne Wars is the reason why she kind of gets a little more notice than a lot of the other women that preceded her or came out around the same time as her. So again, shout out to Steven. He's the one that let me know early on a Saturday morning. I was like, that she was gone. And I saw it was a video by MC Shan who announced her passing, and that, they have become friends. And it just sent me into like this spiral of, wow. I think a lot of people are taken aback because we've been so used to mostly getting death notifications about male counterparts.
Yes.
The men. That's because men typically aren't taking care of themselves, are doing a lot of things that will be detrimental to their health. And so we've seen a lot more of the men pass away in large numbers, whereas this is a woman. This is, somebody who was very much on the verge of getting her life together and wanting a new start, I had the pleasure and opportunity of meeting Sparky D a couple of years back during the Hip Hop 50 celebration. And on the campus of Spelman, there was a conversation had amongst I forget who put it on. I believe it's the Hip Hop Caucus put it on. And they had different women from here in the metro area, including my good sis Lisa, aka Peppermint Gaddy, was a part of the panel as a DJ. And so one of their special guests was Sparky D. And I was like, oh, I'm about to get all of my records that you see behind me. I'm going to get all of my Sparky D records, which are in great shape. And I'm going to go meet this hero of a woman, because Sparky also gets mentioned in the conversation because of the Roxanne movie that came out. So it's been almost several years now that movie came out. And did so well, and it's such a great storytelling of Roxanne Shantae's story. But one thing that stood out to us is that Sparky is featured in the movie, or her character is featured in the movie as the young lady that she's on the road battling, which is why you see that record back there, the battle, round one. They record labels were all about monopolizing.
Baby, Nia Records saw this thing and was like,
we can make some money. Let's make some money off of this. Make some money off of these girls. We're going to take them on tour, and we are going to let them battle it out. They're going to diss each other to tears, and we're going to make money off of these tickets along with the promoters, and we're going to put it on wax and sell it.
I think it's a good time, and maybe what I can do is just do a high-level overview of Sparky's career up to that point, because I feel like this is some stuff that folks might not know. So one of the things that's interesting about Sparky D too is she's from Brooklyn.
Brownsville.
So she's a pioneer because she's one of the earliest hip hop stars from Brownsville, which of course produced all of these legends, including the Notorious B.I.G. later. But Sparky D is like A1 pioneer from that particular community. Of course, started out as a dancer earlier, and then of course, like the culture moves, she moved into MCing, battling specifically, and was just kind of doing that. But then, now I've heard this story a couple of different ways. So I think I've heard a version of the story where she saw City Slim and Moski rhyming and thought, I could be in this group, so I'm going to ask them to be in this group. And then they kind of said, yes, I've heard that version. But I've also heard the version where they heard Sparky D and asked her to be in the group. So one of those two things happened. But anyway, she joined the Playgirls.
Playgirls.
And this is kind of a fateful moment because she joins this group. The girls released this song called Our Picture of a Man, which is a cutesy, very 1983 hip hop song.
We're the ladies of the 80s, and we're going to tell you about these men these days.
Exactly. Yeah. So now what's interesting about that is, of course, so this song, not of course, but this song is produced by Spyder D. And Spyder D becomes a very central figure in the career of Sparky D as a solo act. So they do the song Our Picture of a Man. That song comes out. Sparky D in some way begins to entertain her solo career. Produced by Spyder D. She appears on Spyder D's song. The name of that song is escaping me at the moment. Comes out in 84 on Sutra, I think or that might have been Profile, actually. All these labels were working together. But anyway, which leads to these two artists working super closely together, which ultimately leads to the moment in 1985 when they hear Roxanne's Revenge and decides Spyder D and Sparky decide to do this song that then kind of changes both of their lives in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so much. It's so funny how back then, like, it didn't take much for you to catch a wave. You really just had to be in the place to be. And I think for Sparky, not only did she have the support of Spyder D, she also, had the support of DJ Red Alert. She recorded a song because DJs back then would have a song to kind of announce them. And one of the 12 inches is the one behind me that you can see is DJ Red Alert Goes Berserk. He's my DJ. And this is the era of the 12-inch record.
Yeah. Because all her joints is mostly 12 inches up until her full length, which takes a while.
Which takes a while to come on out. And as we were discussing before we got on the show, by the time that came out, in comparison to her counterparts, you could there was a marked difference production wise in how everything slated out for her. And I think that also had an effect on the way she was received by the new generation or the upcoming generation that we call, that's part of the golden era.
Yeah.
And there's a tsunami of women on the mic. And before we do that, I mean, I was referring to the moment in the Roxanne movie, Roxanne, where Roxanne Shante and Sparky D share a moment outside of the tour bus, which I think solidified their sisterhood, and was just a really touching moment in their lives. Is these girls, these are teenage girls.
These are teenage girls.
They don't have managers, quote unquote. They don't have handlers. They've got boyfriends and they've got friends that are along for the ride. And so, as a performer, especially when you're out on tour, getting paid is key. And in several situations, Roxanne Shante has stated that people have, tried to jerk her around. And succeeded at jerking her around by not paying her. She famously tells the story of how Mike Tyson
would go collect her money.
Went and collected her money for her. And but yeah, so this promoter didn't want to pay her. And at this point, Shante is a brand new mother, a teenage mother, and she's using this money to help raise her child and to send money back home to her mom, who's, I'm sure, taking care of the baby at the time. And so, without thinking about it, Sparky is like, "Yo, what's up? Why you crying?" Despite the fact that they're on tour battling each other.
Right.
After a while, it's like, yeah, we might be battling each other on stage, but you get to know each other. And she was like, "Yo, what's up? What's going on?" And Shante tells her, and without thinking, Sparky reaches in her pocket and gives her a stack and was like, "Don't even worry about it. Take care of that baby." And that's the moment where they become sisters.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an important point within when I started seeing all of the memories that were being shared and all the memorials that people were making on Instagram for this woman. Is like there was an actual sisterhood amongst these ladies back then. Even when we thought they were all battling and dissing each other, behind the scenes they grew to love each other. There were only a handful of them.
And they were surrounded by all of these men were, and let's keep it a buck, right? Not only surrounded by all of these men, but these dudes were actually, in a lot of cases, just kind of taking advantage of these, these women, these young girls.
These teenage girls taking their money. They're the ones on the front, and we've seen this time and time and time again. Some people got lucky, J-Ray. Some people got lucky. I think sometimes a hit record and a video may have saved a lot of these young ladies' lives. Whereas if you remain faceless, because like I said, a lot of the early works were just 12 inches.
Yeah.
And excuse me, a lot of times 12 inches didn't have your picture on it.
Nope. It was literally just that sleeve and then whoever it was, and that was it.
And that was it. And that way nobody could, sometimes people didn't know what you look like because this is still pre-video.
Mm-hmm.
And so how are they going to support you? How are they going to look for you to support you in the future? And so every now and then you have to keep reintroducing yourself. And I can't recall Sparky even having a music video to reference, whereas a lot of her counterparts at least have one or two music videos that people can say, oh, that, and point and say, hey, that's Sparky D. Luckily, we do have the amazing photo session that by Jeanette Beckman of the round table of female MCs.
Yeah.
That it's a legendary photo that also includes Millie Jackson.
Millie Jackson is there. You know, they're cutting up.
They're cutting up, and they're at a high school, I believe, in Brooklyn. And thankfully, that photograph has actually heightened her profile as well. You know, gave us a visual of who Sparky D was. Not to mention the fresh Dapper Dan outfit that she had on as well.
I want to spend a couple of minutes, Sir Daniel, talking about the artistry of Sparky D, because I found this to be interesting. So in preparation for this conversation, I went back and let's listen to the Sparky D catalog, because there aren't a ton of songs. So you can literally just kind of listen to Sparky D songs, and two things jumped out at me. The first thing is you could clearly tell the songs that Sparky wrote on. Like, there became this moment in time kind of in like 88, 89, when Spyder D wrote a song and it sounded completely different than what Sparky D was writing for herself. So that was very interesting. Is she had a very clear songwriting stamp that she used in her rhymes. Two is she cut through that voice, and that delivery. And when you listen to the Playgirls, and this is no shade to the other two members of the Playgirls, but it was very clear that Sparky had that thing. She did have that. Yeah, she had that thing that she could like do something. And the thing that I just wanted to note that just as an artistry perspective, she wrote, if not all, no, she definitely didn't write all, because there were a couple that she didn't write on. So she wrote all her stuff though, and she cut through. But at the same time, it was disappointing listening, because you could tell like that she was stuck in the producer's box that the producer was in. And I was like, dang, if she just had the team that LL Cool J had that could like move her from out of this box into 1987, into 1988, what would that have been like? They were trying to do it, but she was still in this box. And I'm like, this is still a step behind of what people were, the cadence and the way people were rapping at the time. The voice was there. She could have did what MC Lyte and Queen Latifah did. Yeah, without question. But she was just stuck in, I do think she was stuck in the box that the producer was stuck in. And unfortunately, her producer was her boyfriend, was also like managing her career, and was her whole world. She talked about in her book, her Spyder D was her world.
Yeah. And that's never never works out well for specifically the woman in the situation.
Yeah,
but you're absolutely right. and I hinted at it earlier, like when Sparky D's World finally came out, the full length album. One, I wish, because she was on B-Boy Records, I wish that she could have worked with like KRS-One, because
KRS-One,
they were label mates,
yeah.
D9 and the whole Boogie Down Productions team. And I wish that she could have worked with them, because you could tell, like, Throwdown is one of the records that kind of cuts through.
Yeah.
Because
That
it sounds
Boskaggs sample.
And it kind of cuts through the rest of the album, because the album, this is 88 when the album drops. By 1988, you've got Salt-N-Pepa is one and going on two albums. You've got Sweet Teas on the Smooth Tip is already out. Light as a Rock is dropping. Yep. I mean, and then in 89, of course, you get All Hail the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
These, as far as debut albums, the production on these records are so above the bar. Mm-hmm. That when you listen, in comparison, listening to Sparky D's World, it just doesn't compare. And that's what happens when you're, like you said, when you're isolated with just one person on production. Whereas these young ladies, even though let's take Salt-N-Pepa for instance, even though they were working with Herbie specifically, still Herbie to his point had a musicality that allowed him to expand their sound and make it a lot more commercial, even down to the mixing. Mixing is so important, because I could still hear on that record that it's not mixed well. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have that extra, thing that a mixed record would have. And a lot of that is budget, you don't know. It could have been budget. It could have been the label. All of these things, there's a whole lot of factors, which we're saying is not her fault.
Right.
Because the only thing, and we said this before we hopped on, the only thing separating Sparky from her peers, from her classmates of 88, 89 is community.
Yep.
And community is key. Community, crew, whatever you want to call it, is key. And unfortunately, I know that she was down with like UTFO, the whole Brooklyn crew, UTFO and all of them. And the real Roxanne at one point, it's still Howie T, Chubb Rock. It still doesn't cut through, like, say, how a Lyte had the First Priority Music team, an audio two with her, Salt-N-Pepa's, Sweet Tea, Antoinette, all part of Idol Makers.
Yeah.
Finesse and Quiz is down with Uptown. It makes a difference. It makes a difference. And not only does that affect your sound, but when you feel isolated, this is when the demons start to come.
Whoa.
And here's where we are.
Sparky's done a lot of this, so if you want to really get into the history of Sparky D and her life, you can definitely do that. She's been very open about it. Mm-hmm. But she was also in the throes of major addiction. And I think that's also part of the isolation.
Yeah.
Right? She is in a different space than some of the other folks that she would have probably been in community with at the time if she had not been in the throes of that addiction. And that's like really... And she was young. So we're also talking about like a 20. She had started using at like 19. So we're talking a 23-year-old young woman in the throes of addiction.
Brain still developing.
Yep.
I mean, it's a horrible time to get caught up in that.
Yeah.
It's never a good time to get caught up in drugs, especially a very addictive drug. Mm-hmm. Like, and let's just put it out there. In this time span, let's say from disco to the early beginnings of hip hop, rap music, cocaine use was out in the open. It was a thing. a lot of people, and you hear them in their early rhymes and in their names, that if you had a Coke, a Spoonie, or a spoon in your name, a blow in your name, or a snow or anything like that, that was a dog whistle to everybody that you were down to party. You were down to party and play. And so
not that kind of party and play.
Wow.
Well, we all know what the people be doing.
Listen. And so there's a whole generation of rappers that openly used, you know, they were lacing their joints, the whole nine. They openly used, and some got caught up in the crack era.
Yeah, absolutely.
Caught up in the crack era. Quite a few of them have been vocal that they used crack, which I thought was so interesting, J-Ray, because when we were growing up, the messaging was clearly anti-crack.
Absolutely.
Crack, whack, don't do it, all of the things, right? We were told that on these records, but a lot of our faves were doing lines and bumps and getting their life off the scene, off camera and behind the scenes. And so you can't fault someone, especially a young lady who's trying to prove herself in this industry and be down and stay up all night to perform and to be in these places, because that was the thing. You had to go from the Latin Quarter to the rooftop to the Fever all in one night to hit these shows, and you needed to stay up.
Right.
And so somebody hands you something, you put it up your nose and you stay up. Yeah. And then unfortunately, before you know it, it's got its claws in you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that absolutely happened to Sparky. She talks about in her book where she breaks down this whole story because there's a lot of trauma associated with even her drug use. So one, there's the connection to her partner, and she wants to do everything her partner does, right? Because that's her world. So she's a biracial woman. She talked about not feeling like she had a place. So once again, there's a void that needs to be filled, right? And this person that she's with is filling a void. She talked about the first time she hit a crack pipe, and she was supposed to be, and the way she tells the story is quite tragic. She was supposed to be heading to take her mom some money. Her mom was going on a trip. But before she went to do that, she did this thing because, hey, they were there, they did it, she had never done it before. And that moment for her changed everything. She never made it to take her mom the money. Her mom ended up passing away on that trip. So can you imagine the trauma associated with this thing that you're now addicted to? And now you're in the muck of this. So you're in a relationship that's within it. You have this traumatic moment that's now tied to it. There is so much about this woman's career, which basically ends by 1989. There are no more Sparky D releases. So you figure what we got, 83 to 88. How many years is that? 5 years?
Yeah.
And in that 5-year time, there is these amazing highs, all of these accolades, to the lowest of lows. And what's amazing and a testimony, and she talked about this, of course, is because she was able to get to the other side of that. It took her over years, over a decade, but she was able to get to the other side of it and be here with us to share that testimony. And I think that's also really important. And that's why we also need to celebrate her and folks of that generation, because that's a lot to go through. And a lot to experience at a very young age. And just want to thank her for sharing that difficult part of her story.
when I found out that she actually lived here in the Metro
Yep.
Atlanta area, I was like, oh wow. You know, I forget what, just randomly I was online and the name Sparky D came up and that she was a minister here.
Yeah.
And you know, spirituality and a relationship with God and becoming and entering the ministry is part of what extended her life
Yeah.
and gave her a new chapter. One whole space for her children, her grandchildren. You know, she reconstructed her life. So the moment that, you know, I would see coming up on those 50 years of hip hop,
Yeah.
and those different celebrations that would come up of the women in hip hop, and Sparky D would be complete. I mean, just embraced by everybody, and it did my heart good to see that she was completely embraced. She always showed love, and yeah, I really am glad that we took this time to hold space for her and hold space for her memory and for her contributions to hip hop, for her contributions to what it means to the essence of emceeing and
Yes.
that art of battling, because it's what they did. It's how you represented your crew, your block. It's how you got a reputation around the hood, which could have led to getting paid, which could lead to getting a record deal, which could lead you to getting out of the hood. All of those things mean something. And listen, and even though the production may not be all, go back and listen to those songs.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about delivery, Ray J talked about her delivery. You're talking about people that aren't necessarily classically trained, or when they get in the studio. So to know that she knows to rap from her diaphragm,
Yeah.
to have the cadence and the breath control that she had, and to be completely serious and not to be played with, to be very stern with her delivery, is something that is you can't teach that. That's something that you either have it or you don't. And I remember I read somewhere once that Run DMC, DMC from Run DMC was like, yo, he didn't want any problems with her on stage, because, and you could see it, because she has one of those voices that could carry.
Yeah.
Like you said, she cut through everybody else on those other records. Even on the battle with Shantae, holds her own.
Oh yeah.
But just on voice alone and cadence, Sparky kind of had that above her.
Mhm.
But yeah, I really do think people need to go back and to study her contributions and to have empathy.
Yes.
This generation needs to show empathy for these people that came before them, the cautionary tales that come along with being in this industry and substance abuse, and also having empathy for people who shoulders you stand on. Because I think we talk about, when we talk about paying respect, I think it becomes too abstract for a lot of people, because they don't have a reference for it. It's not in their face.
Yeah.
Like when people tell us about the civil rights, there's generations that they're so far gone from that, they don't have a reference point for it. So therefore they don't have any empathy for it. But here's a woman who started a social media presence and was able to and love the young people. And everywhere you go, you see there's young people on social media that bigged her up, because she was always reaching out to them and always bigging them up and pouring into them. And so here's a woman that made herself available to young people and to this era of social media. So you do have somebody that you could look at and you can have empathy for people of that era and say, hey, because of them, I can.
Ooh, that's a mic drop. Definitely y'all go check out some Sparky D. If you can see our faces and hear our voices, hit the subscribe button wherever you are. Visit our website at qpoints.com, which has been blowing up. Our website is being recognized as a really premier podcast website. So if you haven't been to the website, you should check it out and find out why. We got a bunch of stuff over there that y'all can do, stuff that is additional to this. So if you like this, we got more of that. Check us out on Substack. We have some great content on Substack, and you can subscribe to us there, leave us your email address, and get the latest and the greatest from Q Points. And you can shop our store at store.qpoints.com. We are actually in the process of rebuilding the store. It's going to be real cute. So Daniel, I can't wait to share the updates with you in like early August. It's going to be real cool. Nice. But it's going to be real pretty. So we're working on that. And yeah, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all.
We absolutely do. And like I say, every week in this life, you have a choice. You can either pick up the needle or you can let the record play. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is J. Ray, y'all.
And this has been Q Points Podcast, dropping the needle on Black music history. We will see you on the next go round. Peace, y'all.
Peace, y'all.